They condemn you because you saw what they hide. You spoke the quiet truths that everyone else was too afraid to name. You looked beyond the smiles, the staged kindness, the carefully curated lies, and you saw them, not their image, not their mask, them, the part they keep buried under performance and pride. And they never forgave you for that. They never hated you for being wrong, they hated you for being right. You didn't play along. You didn't join their theater of falsehoods. While they worshipped appearances, you kept searching for substance. And when you finally pointed out the cracks in their perfection, they didn't fix them, they painted over them, then blamed you for noticing. You became their threat the moment you stopped participating in their illusion. People like that survive on secrecy. They crave validation, not understanding. And when you refuse to play your part, the quiet, compliant one who claps for hypocrisy, you became the villain in their script. They condemned you not for your sins, but for your sight. The truth is uncomfortable when you've built your identity on lies. You became their mirror, and mirrors are dangerous things. They show people what they've spent years avoiding. And when they couldn't destroy the reflection, they decided to destroy the mirror. They say you changed, but you didn't. You just stopped pretending not to notice. You stopped laughing at fake jokes, stopped defending people who only showed loyalty when convenient. You began to move differently, and suddenly the masks started slipping. Their discomfort was never about you. It was about exposure. They talk about you now, whispering, dramatizing, rewriting the story. Because villains make better conversation than truth tellers. It's easier to condemn you than confront the parts of themselves you revealed. So they built a narrative where you're the problem, because that way, they never have to face what they are. You became their cautionary tale. Don't end up like them, they say. But what they really mean is, don't wake up like them. Because once you see through the act, you can't go back to clapping. You can't unsee the manipulation, the ego disguised as morality, the affection that was always conditional. They mistake your silence for guilt. But it's not guilt, it's grace. You don't need to defend yourself to those who already decided their version of the truth. You learned that arguments with liars only make the lie louder, so you went quiet. And in that quiet, their stories began to crumble. They condemn you because you made them visible. You stripped away their borrowed light. You turned the spotlight back toward the shadows. And people who thrive in darkness despise illumination. They'll call you arrogant, cruel, dramatic, anything but accurate. Because accuracy is fatal to falsehood. And now, you walk alone but free. You no longer seek acceptance from those who wear their morality like makeup. You've seen too much to return to blindness. You learned that solitude is safer than fake company, and truth is heavier, but cleaner than deception. They condemn you because you saw their true colors and refused to paint over them. They still perform, pretending the curtain never fell. But you can see the tremor in their smiles, the hesitation in their eyes. They sense your gaze on them, and it unsettles them, because you know what they look like without the costume. Nothing terrifies pretenders more than someone who remembers the truth. They gather in small circles to reassure each other that you're the problem. Every sentence they speak is a confession disguised as gossip. You don't correct them. You don't need to. The truth doesn't need defenders. It needs time. And time is patient. It always exposes what ego tries to hide. You learned that peace isn't the absence of enemies. It's the absence of masks. Once you've seen people's true faces, you stop expecting sincerity from them. You stop offering explanations to those who hear only what flatters them. You start living quietly, watching their performances with detached amusement. They mistake your detachment for bitterness. But bitterness is loud. Indifference is elegant. You no longer need revenge. You have perspective. You understand now that falsehood collapses under its own weight. All you have to do is step aside and let gravity do its work. You stopped collecting apologies. You realized most are not apologies at all, just people trying to reset access to you. So you built boundaries so high that only truth can climb them. It's lonely up there, yes, but it's honest. And honesty has become your oxygen. They think your quiet is weakness because they mistake noise for strength. But strength is restraint. Power is refusing to waste words on those who twist them. Every time you stay silent, they reveal themselves a little more. You learned that the best interrogation tool is patience. You don't flinch anymore when they accuse you. You let them talk. Let them invent. Lies are like ghosts, they vanish when ignored. And every false story told about you becomes another thread tightening around their own reputation. Their theater is collapsing, and you don't even have to lift a hand. You've grown fluent in solitude. It no longer feels like exile, it feels like clarity. There's peace in being misunderstood by liars, because you no longer need them to understand you. You don't explain honesty to those addicted to illusion. You let them drown in their own narratives. They condemn you because you don't worship their version of truth. But you've learned, truth doesn't need a congregation, only conviction. You carry it quietly now, like a weapon concealed beneath elegance. They sense it, even if they can't name it, the calm of someone who knows too much and speaks too little. And in the end, that's what breaks them. Not your words, not your actions, your awareness. You saw their true colors, and you didn't flinch. You didn't run. You simply stepped back and let the light do what it always does, reveal. And revelation, my dear, is the one thing falsehood can never survive. They think you disappeared. You didn't. You simply stopped performing. You walked off their stage and built your own room of silence where only truth is invited. From there you watch them scramble for an audience, terrified that the applause has died. They still crave validation. You now crave nothing. You've become the still point they can't reach. Every rumor they release returns to them slightly distorted, a mirror echoing their own cruelty. They don't understand how it happens, and that's what eats them alive, the realization that your absence became their reflection. Once you stop reacting, the entire machinery of manipulation collapses. You learned that early. When you refused to defend yourself, their words lost oxygen. They mistook your calm for surrender, but it was strategy. You understood that silence in the right hands is a blade sharper than anger. They missed the version of you that used to justify everything. They missed the angel who kept forgiving their shadows. But the angel grew tired of being the light source for people afraid of dawn. Now you shine differently, cold, deliberate, selective. The warmth they once abused no longer exists for them. You became the reminder they can't escape. Your name surfaces when honesty threatens to surface. They roll their eyes, pretend indifference, but their tone betrays them. You've become proof that authenticity survives exile, and they resent that proof because it nullifies their pretense. You stop trying to change anyone. That's real maturity. Watching someone lie, betray, and repeat the pattern without lifting a finger to save them. You simply observe, detached and calm, knowing that life always demands payment in the currency of truth. They condemn you because you're free. You don't owe them narrative, explanation, or access. Freedom frightens those who live on approval. You learn that detachment isn't loneliness, it's sovereignty. You own your peace the way tyrants own empires, except yours requires no subjects. The stories they tell about you are shrinking. Each time you thrive silently, their versions lose credibility. Lies decay when starved of attention. You don't fight them, you outlast them. Time, after all, is loyal to the truthful. Now they avoid your eyes. Not because you threaten them, but because they see what you see. They feel exposed in your presence, stripped of performance. That's the quiet authority of awareness. It commands without demanding. It unsettles without speaking. And you, once the condemned, now walk through their world untouchable. You don't seek revenge, you embody it. Your existence is the verdict. They condemned you because you saw their true colors, and the tragedy for them is simple. The vision you carry cannot be unseen, and the peace you've earned cannot be taken back. They expected your absence to look like defeat. They thought leaving you out would quiet you down, make you crawl back for closure. But you didn't crawl. You ascended. You left quietly, carried your dignity in both hands, and disappeared without an announcement. That silence humiliated them more than any speech could have. At first, they waited for a reaction. They threw bait provocations, rumors, small insults designed to test if you still cared. You didn't blink. You gave them nothing but calm, and that calm terrified them, because people who once fed off your emotions starve when you stop serving them. They check your life from the corners of their screens now. Every post, every movement, every rumor of your peace feels like betrayal. They can't comprehend how someone they tried to ruin simply stopped reacting. They wanted chaos. You gave them stillness. And nothing is louder than silence that doesn't need validation. You learned that indifference is the final evolution of self-respect. It's not hatred, it's freedom. You no longer invest energy in proving who you are to people who already decided what they wanted to believe. You just walk away, and the echo of your footsteps keeps them awake. They call you arrogant because they confuse boundaries with ego. But your calm isn't arrogance, it's exhaustion cured by detachment. You've outgrown the performance of explaining yourself to the unlistening. That's what burns them the most. They no longer have the privilege of misunderstanding you. They whisper that you've changed. You have. You stopped caring about the applause of people who booed when you were real. You learned that not everything deserves your response. Your silence is your statement, your peace the sharpest comeback. They wanted to see you broken, begging, seeking closure. Instead, you became composed, private, unbothered. That composure exposes their immaturity. It reminds them that control isn't about dominance, it's about discipline. You learn to walk away with grace, and they can't forgive you for doing it so beautifully. They mistake your laughter for mockery. They don't understand that joy after betrayal isn't revenge, it's recovery. You no longer need to prove you're fine. You are fine. Their obsession with your indifference is the proof. You healed while they rehearsed reasons you shouldn't have. They try to provoke you through others' now small comments, passive messages, mutual friends carrying updates you didn't ask for. You smile, nod, and change the subject. That small act of emotional control drives them mad. They can't stand that you've become immune to the drama they built their identity around. And so they call you heartless. But the truth is simpler. You just stopped handing your heart to people who drop it. Your IDGAF attitude isn't cruelty, it's clarity. You finally understand that caring is sacred, and not everyone deserves it. They wanted your reaction. Instead, you gave them peace, and peace, to the guilty, feels like punishment. They keep watching, hoping the old version of you will slip out by accident. The one who reacted, explained, overgave, but that person is gone. You buried them beneath boundaries and stillness. You speak less now, move slower, think deeper. They call it distance, but it's evolution. They try to bait you with nostalgia. Remember when you cared? They ask, pretending warmth. But the question is a confession. They missed the control they had when you cared. You smile politely, answer with silence, and that single act unsettles them more than any argument ever could. Every time you don't respond, their ego takes the hit. They replay your quiet like a crime scene, searching for signs of weakness. But your absence has no clues. It's complete. You mastered the art of non-participation, and that mastery is what keeps them pacing in their own cage. They gossip, because gossip is cheaper than self-reflection. You let them. Lies decay in circulation. You don't chase rumors anymore, you let them orbit and burn out in their own friction. The truth doesn't need rescuing. It only needs witnesses. Time provides plenty. Your peace has become theatrical to them. They can't comprehend calm without agenda, so they assign you motives. They're pretending. They're plotting. The reality is simpler. You're simply done. Nothing enrages manipulators more than someone who's sincerely finished. They scroll through fragments of your life looking for cracks, something to prove you're still wounded, but you healed quietly without posting the process. Real healing is invisible. It leaves no proof for the audience. That invisibility drives them mad. They want you back in their drama because peace makes their chaos feel meaningless. Without you reacting, their games have no prize. You dismantled their power simply by refusing to play. That's why your IDGAF attitude stings. It reminds them that control only works on the willing. You no longer correct their version of events. You let them believe what they need to sleep at night. It's not your job to be their clarity. You've learned that peace costs the price of misunderstanding, and you're willing to pay it. Freedom always demands that toll. They accuse you of thinking you're better. You don't. You just value yourself enough to stay unavailable to nonsense. That's the difference between arrogance and awareness. Arrogance performs, awareness withdraws. You've chosen withdrawal, and that choice terrifies them. Now, every time your name is mentioned, it lingers. You've become an unsolved riddle in their stories. How someone could be so unbothered after so much chaos. They'll keep guessing. Let them. Because mystery is the last gift you give those who once took everything else. They thought distance would diminish you, but instead, it defined you. The further you walked, the clearer your reflection became. You realized that peace isn't about isolation, it's about elevation. You didn't retreat, you rose. And in your rise, they saw their own stagnation mirrored back at them. That's what eats them alive. They used to mock your kindness, whisper that you cared too much. Now they envy the silence that replaced it. Because that silence has gravity, it pulls attention, it commands the room without trying. You've become what they feared, the one who no longer needs to explain, apologize, or participate. You turned your restraint into a crown. Every time they mention your name, the air shifts. It carries both awe and bitterness. They try to dismiss you with the same mouths that can't stop repeating your story. You've become folklore proof that surviving betrayal turns you into myth, and myths don't argue, they echo. You no longer walk to prove a point. Your existence is the point. They can't stand that the version of you they tried to destroy became the one the world now admires. Their envy isn't about your success, it's about your serenity. They can buy status, followers, imitation, but not your peace. Peace like yours can only be earned through war with the self. They study your stillness like detectives of your downfall. Every breath you take unsettles them because it contradicts their expectations. You were supposed to crumble. You didn't. You were supposed to beg. You didn't. You were supposed to stay broken. Instead, you built an empire from the rubble and never invited them in. Now they move carefully around your name, afraid to sound obsessed but unable to hide the fascination. They lurk behind blocked accounts, mutual friends, second-hand updates, all to keep tabs on someone who stopped playing the game. And that's your quiet victory. They still chase what you've outgrown. You don't even have to respond anymore. Your peace speaks louder than revenge ever could. Revenge requires attention. Peace demands evolution. You evolved, and they mistook it for ego. But ego shouts, peace whispers. And your whisper is deafening to those still screaming for relevance. You no longer measure your worth by who claps for you. You learned that applause fades faster than truth. What stays is the discipline to remain calm while they self-destruct under the weight of their own envy. You don't fight fire with fire, you let theirs burn out while you walk through the smoke untouched. They'll tell others that you changed. They'll call it coldness. But what really changed was your tolerance for chaos. You stopped entertaining people who mistake access for importance. You became selective with your energy, and that selectivity made you untouchable. And now, in their quietest moments, they replay everything. They remember the one who cared, who stayed, who forgave, and they realize they broke the version of you that would have saved them. What remains is the version they created, the one who doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, doesn't need. You, at peace. And that peace is their punishment. They broke the angel, not with fire, not with war, but with neglect, the kind of quiet cruelty that kills slowly. You kept forgiving, kept showing grace, thinking patience would heal what they refused to stop wounding. You gave light to people who hid from it. You called it love. They called it convenience. Every time you fell, you believed the world would catch you, but the world didn't even look up. So you learned the lesson all pure souls eventually learn. Sometimes innocence isn't rewarded, it's targeted. And those who cannot match your purity will always try to stain it. They broke you with small betrayals, polite lies, half-hearted promises. You didn't break loud, you shattered quietly, like glass under silk. And when you disappeared, they laughed. They thought silence meant surrender, but silence was incubation. You weren't gone, you were rebuilding. They loved you when you were gentle, because gentle things are easy to control. But when you hardened, when you learned the beauty of no, when you stopped explaining your pain, suddenly you were the villain. That's how it always goes. The moment you start respecting yourself, the world calls it ego. Now they look at you and whisper, "What happened?" You did. You happened. The version of you that they broke learned how to never bend again. You built a fortress out of the rubble. You turned every apology you never got into a brick. And you smiled while doing it, not because it didn't hurt, but because pain finally had purpose. They used to take your kindness for granted. Now they take your absence personally. You became a silence that screams louder than your old forgiveness ever did. They wanted your empathy. They got your evolution instead. And evolution, my dear, doesn't ask for permission. You stopped bleeding for those who never flinched at your wounds. You stopped being the medicine for people addicted to your suffering. That was your first act of rebellion, peace disguised as indifference. And in that calm, they saw something terrifying. You no longer needed them. They see your calm and call it coldness. But it's not coldness, it's control. You stopped reacting, stopped explaining, stopped begging. You learned that angels don't fall. They rise disguised as demons when they've seen too much heaven wasted on the wrong souls. Now they whisper your name with fear, not nostalgia. You became the warning they give to others. Don't play with someone who has nothing left to lose. They see you thriving, detached, untouchable, and it kills them quietly. Because deep down they know they created the very force that now eclipses them. They broke the angel, they shattered your wings, thinking you'd never fly again. But they forgot wings grow back sharper when rebuilt in fire. You didn't just rise. You ascended with eyes open, no longer blinded by love. And now, the ones who once called you too good call you too much. That's not change, that's clarity. They call you heartless now, but that's just projection. You still have a heart, it's just no longer on display. You tucked it behind armor, forged in disappointment, guarded it with silence, and crowned it with restraint. What they call cold is simply warmth that learned self-respect. They say you've changed, you haven't. You just stopped volunteering for your own destruction. You stopped walking into flames expecting people to notice you were burning. You stopped mistaking pain for loyalty. That isn't change, that's awakening. And awakenings are always misread by those who sleep comfortably in denial. They used to laugh when you spoke about love. They mocked your sincerity, rolled their eyes at your faith. But now they can't laugh. Now, when you walk into a room, they fall silent because your calm exposes their noise. They can't meet your eyes because your peace reflects their unrest. You don't chase anymore, you don't explain, defend, or beg. You learn that power doesn't shout, it observes. That silence, when it's earned, speaks louder than rage. You became fluent in the language of indifference, and that terrified them because they thrived on your reactions. Without your chaos, their world fell still. They can't decide what scares them more, your absence or your evolution. When you were broken, they felt powerful. Now that you're whole, they feel exposed because they can't manipulate what no longer seeks approval. You stopped orbiting them, and suddenly they realized they were never the sun, just the shadow. They gossip about your transformation because they can't decode it. You've gone dark, they say, not realizing darkness was your refuge, not your downfall. You went into the dark to heal, to rebuild, to rewire. And when you emerged, they mistook your stillness for emptiness. But you know better, emptiness is what they feel when they can't reach you. They see your peace and call it arrogance. But peace, after chaos, is the most dangerous weapon, because you're not fighting anyone anymore, you're letting them fight themselves. Every lie they told about you now echoes back at them. Every game they played now costs them sleep. Karma didn't need your help, it just needed your silence. You learned that not all demons wear horns. Some wear apologies, some wear smiles, and the cruelest ones call it love. But you learned to recognize them, didn't you? You learned that being kind to the wrong people is how angels bleed. So you stopped bleeding. You started watching. You became the lesson. They thought breaking you would humble you. Instead, it crowned you. Because nothing is more powerful than someone who has already been destroyed and built themselves back without resentment. You didn't return to prove them wrong, you returned to prove to yourself that they never defined you. And now, they fear what they built. The demon they mocked into existence doesn't roar, doesn't chase, doesn't burn things down. It simply exists elegantly, mercilessly free. They look at you now and realize the truth. They didn't destroy you. They only destroyed their access to you. And that, my dear, is the real punishment. They whisper your name like a warning now. The same mouths that once mocked you now weigh every word before they speak, because you taught them what consequence looks like, not through revenge, but through absence. You didn't destroy them. You just let life show them what it's like to live without your grace. They never understood how light could turn dark so beautifully. They expected fury, but you gave them silence. They expected chaos, but you gave them composure. You didn't need to raise your voice. Your peace became the thunder that echoed louder than any scream. The silence they once took for weakness now feels like judgment. They still talk about you not out of love, but out of confusion. How did the one they broke rise so calmly? How did the one they buried come back glowing with restraint instead of rage? It's simple. You stopped trying to heal in the same place that made you sick. You found peace in distance, not destruction. They look at your life now, how you glow, how you move, and it eats them alive. Not because you're flaunting victory, but because you've mastered the art of not needing validation. You no longer post your wounds for applause. You heal in silence. You win quietly, and that silence drives them mad. They call it arrogance because they can't name the feeling of being irrelevant. They used to matter, now they don't. They used to haunt you, now you sleep soundly. That's the cruel poetry of growth. The ones who once defined your pain no longer define anything at all. You stop proving, stop pleading, stop performing. You realize that power isn't about being louder, it's about being untouchable. You no longer demand to be understood. Let them misunderstand. It's cheaper than explaining your evolution to people who still live in the past version of you. They thought they could end you by breaking you, but all they did was remove your illusion. The angel they shattered was the version that believed people could love purely. The demon that rose afterward loves differently, selectively, deliberately, with eyes open and a heart armored in truth. Now they crave the version of you that no longer exists. They replay old memories like addicts chasing a high. But that person, that naive light, was buried the moment they chose deceit over loyalty. You mourned it once. Now you honor it by never returning. That's what real healing looks like, loving who you were while never becoming it again. You've learned that peace isn't found in forgiveness alone, it's found in detachment. You no longer hate them. You simply see through them. Hate still connects you. Indifference severs the thread. And that's the most frightening thing of all. They can't hurt what no longer responds. And so, when they look at you now, they don't see the angel they once broke. They see the reflection of every wrong they ever did. They see calm where chaos used to live, strength where submission once stood. They fear you not because you became a monster, but because you became everything they never expected, whole, healed, and utterly beyond their reach. They once looked at you and saw fragility, someone too soft to survive without their approval, too kind to ever walk away. But fragility doesn't mean weakness. It means transparency before the world learns how to break you. And when they finally broke you, they forgot one thing: glass, once shattered, cuts deeper than anything they've ever touched. They thought you'd fade quietly, that you'd crumble, plead, return. But you didn't fall apart, you fell into yourself. You learned that solitude is not emptiness, it's refinement. They mistook your stillness for surrender, not realizing that silence is where real power learns how to breathe. They said you'd never survive without them. Funny how survival became your specialty. While they drowned in their own noise, you rebuilt yourself in the dark, not for applause, not for revenge, but for peace. The kind of peace that rattles those who never found it. They waited for your breakdown, not your breakthrough. But the universe has a cruel sense of humor. It made you bloom in the ruins they left behind. Every time they cursed your name, the echo came back carrying your victory. They called you dramatic, emotional, difficult, anything to make themselves feel stable. But time revealed what you always knew, that emotional doesn't mean weak, and quiet doesn't mean defeated. They built their comfort on your chaos, and when you took the chaos back, their comfort collapsed. They wanted you predictable, compliant, small. Instead, you became unreadable. You started smiling at things that once destroyed you. That's what terrifies them most, not your success, but your serenity, because peace in the hands of the once broken looks like a weapon. They whisper now, saying you've changed. But they don't mean it as an observation, they mean it as an accusation. Because if you've changed, then they have to face who they were when you were still theirs. And no one likes looking in the mirror that tells the truth. They can't believe you stopped caring. But you didn't stop caring, you just stopped bleeding for unworthy causes. You learned the most dangerous skill of all, detachment. To love without losing yourself, to leave without looking back. That kind of growth terrifies the ones who stay stagnant. They'll tell stories about you, twist them, decorate them, dilute them, but that's fine. Legends are always misunderstood in the first chapter. What matters is this. Their doubt built the stage, and you learned how to perform without needing their applause. And now look at you, calm, untouchable. Everything they said you'd never be and more. You didn't rise to prove them wrong. You rose because it was the only way left to live. And that's the irony of it all. They wanted to destroy you, but instead, they built you. You became everything they thought you'd never be, and now, that's all they can see. They used to measure your worth by how much you needed them. Now they have no unit of measurement left. You stopped orbiting around their approval, and suddenly their entire sky went dark. That's what happens when people mistake your light for their control. When you take it back, their world goes black. They call it arrogance now, the way you carry yourself. But arrogance is loud, you're quiet. And quiet confidence unsettles the insecure because it whispers what their ego screams to hide. That you no longer seek permission to exist. They used to command your energy. Now they can't even command your attention. They analyze your calm like detectives, trying to find cracks, motives, explanations. But peace doesn't need an alibi. It's not pretending. It's proof. Every rumor they start about you is just another confession that they can't understand how you're still standing. They thought the story would end when you walked away. They never expected a sequel where the protagonist glows in silence and the antagonists argue among themselves. You didn't need revenge time did it for you. It replayed every lie, every manipulation, and forced them to watch it from the other side. They talk about you with a bitterness that tastes like regret, because deep down they know what really haunts them. You were never supposed to win. You were supposed to beg, crawl, apologize. Instead, you healed, and healing is the one thing they can't compete with. They thought they'd moved on. They even convinced themselves that indifference was victory. But indifference doesn't stalk peace in silence. They still scroll, still wonder, still compare. Because when someone truly moves on, curiosity dies and theirs refuses to. They never realized that peace changes your language. You stopped arguing, stopped proving, stopped explaining. Every time they tried to bait you into chaos, you just smiled, not mockingly, but knowingly, because once you've tasted serenity, noise feels like poverty. And the final irony? They wanted to see you broken, so they'd have a story to tell. Instead, you became a reminder of what they could have been if they'd chosen growth over ego. You didn't just survive them, you outgrew the version of yourself that ever needed them. And that's what truly destroys them. You became everything they thought you'd never be, and they became everything they swore they'd never become. They can't stand how unbothered you've become. Once upon a time, they could trigger you with a word, twist your emotions like wires. Now they shout into silence, and that silence answers louder than any scream. They used to feed off your reactions, now they starve in your absence. That's the quiet starvation of the manipulative the moment they realize the puppet has cut its own strings. They wander through their own regrets like ghosts, haunted not by your memory, but by your peace. You don't haunt them because you left. You haunt them because you healed. They can't forgive you for choosing yourself, because choosing yourself meant they lost control, and control was the only kind of love they ever knew how to give. They try to rewrite the story now, pretend you were the villain all along. It's easier that way. Villains are simple to hate, victims are too complicated to face. But deep down, even they know the truth. You didn't turn cold. You turned real, and reality is the one thing they never had the courage to live with. They talk about you in fragments, half-truths, and twisted details, hoping that by rewriting your story, they can shrink your impact. But the more they talk, the more they sound like the broken ones. You don't need to defend your legacy. Their words already do it for you. Every rumor they start builds another monument to your silence. They tell themselves they don't care, but they watch. They always watch. Every post, every whisper, every quiet move, their curiosity betrays their denial. You became their favorite contradiction, the one they claim to forget but can't stop observing. You live rent-free in the corners of their conscience. They envy how peace fits you now like armor custom forged in fire. Because they tried to break you, and all they did was sharpen your edges. You learned to wear calm like a crown, not a costume. They mistake your composure for ego, but it's not arrogance. It's evolution. You no longer need to prove that you're untouchable. Your silence proves it every day. They thought they could replace you, and they tried. Oh, they tried. But replacements don't come with the same gravity. The people who come after you are always measured by your absence, and they all fail the test. Because your value was never in what you gave them. It was in who you were when they took it for granted. They laugh about you now, but it's a hollow laugh, the kind that cracks halfway through. Because behind that sound sits realization They lost something permanent, chasing something temporary. And that's a wound no distraction can cauterize. It bleeds quietly in their pride every time they hear your name spoken with respect. They can't understand how you can be so calm, how you can smile at the chaos they once used to drown you. But that's what happens when you master yourself. You stop reacting to storms you've already survived. You've been through their worst. There's nothing left they can take. That's why your peace feels like arrogance to them. Because it's a mirror, and they can't stand the reflection. And in the end, that's the irony that stings them the most. You never needed revenge. You never needed validation. You never needed to prove you were right. You just needed to walk away and stay gone. And now, every breath you take in peace is another reminder that they created the very person they were never built to destroy. You became everything they thought you'd never be, and now, that truth is the ghost that follows them everywhere they go. Before you ever walked away, you were already gone. Long before they noticed your silence, you had begun to detach quietly, carefully, piece by piece. You stopped expecting them to understand you. You stopped waiting for them to care. You started seeing the truth, not the illusion. And when that truth settled in, you left them in your mind first, long before your body ever followed. They didn't notice it at first. They thought your quietness was mood, not withdrawal. They mistook your patience for peace. But inside, you had already begun the process of letting go emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You stopped explaining your pain to people who caused it. You stopped hoping for apologies that were never coming. You stopped trying to make something work that was already dead. That's the part they'll never understand, how you can leave someone while still being around them. How you can smile, nod, listen, and yet be miles away in your mind. You learned to be present in body but absent in emotion. You stopped investing your energy in chaos and started saving it for your healing. You began rehearsing your peace in silence while they kept performing their same old drama. They thought they still had you because your face was still around. They didn't realize they were talking to a version of you that was already leaving. Every time they lied, every time they disrespected you, every time they acted like you were replaceable, you left a little more. You didn't announce it, you just detached one feeling at a time until nothing was left to break. They always believed people leave in one big moment, a fight, an explosion, a goodbye. But no, the real leaving happens quietly, long before the door closes. It happens when the heart grows tired of forgiving, when trust runs out of fuel, when love stops being enough to justify the pain. That's when you left, not in the end, but in the middle of their pretending. And that's why your final goodbye hit so hard, because to them, it came out of nowhere, but to you, it had been years in the making. They didn't see the distance growing between you. They were too busy talking to themselves in a story they thought they controlled. By the time they noticed your silence, it was already permanent. You left in layers, first your trust, then your care, then your attention, then your love. What remained was just politeness, a shell of what once was. You didn't hate them. You didn't wish them harm. You just stopped feeling anything at all. That's what true closure looks like in difference. They'll say you changed. They'll say you became cold. But the truth is, you just ran out of emotion to give. You stopped trying to fix what wasn't broken because it wasn't yours to fix. You realize some people only love you when you're easy to manipulate, and you stopped being that version. Now they call your name and it doesn't move you. Their apologies sound empty because you've heard them all before. You look at them and see through them the lies, the performance, the desperation. Once upon a time, they had the power to ruin your day with a single word. Now, their existence barely registers in your world. They'll never understand that you didn't leave because you stopped loving them. You left because you started loving yourself. You stopped begging for space in places that suffocated you. You stopped fighting for a connection that only survived when you sacrificed yourself. You stopped bleeding for people who never even tried to heal you. And maybe that's what haunts them most, that they had every chance to keep you, but they kept testing your breaking point. They thought your love was endless. They didn't realize love ends where self-respect begins. So you left first in your heart, then in your mind, and lastly in your steps, and each stage of leaving was cleaner than the last. They miss you now, but not the current you, the one you were before they drained you. They miss the version of you that cared too much, that stayed too long, that forgave too quickly. But that version died quietly while they weren't paying attention. You buried it in the silence they created. Now, when they think about you, it stings, because they realize too late that your distance wasn't sudden, it was earned. You didn't abandon them. You simply stopped showing up to a place where you weren't valued. You became your own rescue, your own closure, your own peace. And that's the part that kills them. That you didn't need a dramatic ending. That you didn't need revenge or recognition. You just left in your mind, your heart, and your spirit until the only thing left to do was walk away physically. And when you did, it was with the calm of someone who had already made peace with the loss long ago. Now, you walk lighter. Your smile is real again. You sleep better. You breathe deeper, because you're no longer trying to explain your worth to people who were committed to misunderstanding it. You left their chaos behind, not out of hate, but out of self-respect. And while they wonder how you became so cold, so distant, so unreachable, you know the truth. You didn't become cold. You just stopped burning for people who only brought you smoke. They'll replay the story 1,000 times, searching for when it happened, but they'll never find the exact moment you left, because you didn't slam the door. You just slowly stopped walking toward it. You didn't leave with noise, you left with grace. That's what makes it hurt so much for them now, that your goodbye wasn't loud, it was final. You left them wondering how they lost you, when all along you were leaving quietly, in your mind, every time they showed you who they really were. And by the time they realized, you were already gone. They replay every moment now, trying to pinpoint when your energy began to fade, but that's the irony, isn't it? You didn't leave with fireworks. You left with silence. You stopped laughing at their jokes. You stopped chasing conversations that never went anywhere. You stopped explaining the pain behind your quietness. That's when the shift began, subtle but irreversible. They never realized your silence wasn't confusion. It was clarity. You weren't shutting them out. You were finally shutting the chaos off. Every time they chose pride over peace, you stepped a little further back. Every time they tested your loyalty, you saved a little more of yourself. And before they knew it, you were no longer available for their drama. Now, they missed the version of you that cared too deeply, but that version doesn't exist anymore. You burned that bridge in your heart long before you ever walked away. You stopped craving their validation and started giving yourself what you once begged for: peace, consistency, respect. You learned that closure doesn't always come from conversation. Sometimes it comes from choosing silence. They keep wondering why you never said goodbye, why you didn't leave a note, why you didn't give them one last chance. But why would you? You gave them countless chances when your heart still had hope. You gave them explanations when you owed them none. You gave them grace when they gave you neglect. The goodbye happened gradually, every time they proved they didn't deserve access to you. They called it cold, but it wasn't coldness, it was control. You learned how to detach without bitterness, how to love without losing yourself, how to let go without making a scene. They'll call it cruelty, but you know it's healing. You learned that silence is power and peace is revenge. They whisper now, saying, "You've changed." They tell stories about how you fell off, how you switched up. But deep down, they know the truth: you didn't fall off. You outgrew the version of yourself that tolerated their disrespect. You didn't switch up. You finally aligned with your peace. You stopped reacting because you realized not everything deserves your energy. You became a ghost in their story, but a legend in your own. They reach for you, but all they touch is absence, a void they created themselves. That's what eats at them now, not your silence, but the realization that they caused it. You didn't leave out of nowhere. They pushed you there. And now they sit with the echoes of every word, every lie, every manipulation that made you stop caring. You no longer check your phone hoping for messages that never came. You no longer wait for explanations that would never be honest. You learn to stop chasing closure and start becoming it. You built peace from the ashes of what they destroyed. You healed in places they thought you'd never recover. And now, your absence speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. They hear it in every quiet moment, feel it in every failed attempt to find someone like you. Your silence became their mirror, showing them the emptiness they left behind. You don't have to prove your worth anymore. Your peace already does that for you. They can't handle seeing you unbothered, unaffected, untouchable. They thought breaking you would define you. Instead, it refined you. You became sharper, calmer, wiser. They thought betrayal would break you, that stabbing you in the back would make you scream, flinch, or rage. They expected chaos. They wanted to see you lose composure, to see the mask crack. But when you didn't react, when you just stood there calm, collected, unreadable, that's when they realized they'd made a fatal mistake. Because silence from someone who once cared deeply isn't weakness, it's evolution. They were waiting for the storm. They forgot you became the storm long ago. You didn't yell, you didn't fight, you didn't expose them, you simply withdrew. You gave them nothing. No reaction, no energy, no validation. And that emptiness, that's what haunted them. Because when someone snaked you and you didn't flinch, you didn't just win the argument, you ended the war. They thought the knife they planted in your back would slow you down, but it only taught you where not to stand again. You didn't chase revenge, you chose distance. You didn't play their game, you rewrote the rules. And now, they're stuck replaying the scene, confused by your composure. They expected fire and fury, but all they got was a cold, unbothered silence that screamed louder than anger ever could. They whisper about it now. Did you see how calm they were? Because calmness, when betrayal hits, is terrifying. It means you've seen this before. It means you've already mourned the version of them you trusted. It means their betrayal didn't shatter you. It confirmed what you already suspected. You weren't shocked, you were just done. They can't comprehend how someone could be so still after being so wronged. But what they don't know is that peace is the sharpest weapon of all. You learn to turn heartbreak into observation, betrayal into data, disappointment into strategy. You saw their true face, and instead of reacting, you memorized it. You archived it. You filed it under never again. They thought your silence was weakness, it was discipline. You understood that reacting gives power, that emotions feed manipulation. So you cut the supply. You gave them nothing to feed on. You starved their ego until it turned inward and devoured itself. They thought they'd hurt you, but all they did was expose themselves. Now, they walk carefully around your name, like it's a mirror that might show them what they've become. Because you didn't react, you didn't explain, and that forced them to face the guilt they tried to project onto you. Your calm became their punishment. Your detachment became their reminder that they no longer have access to your energy. They miss the old you, the one who would have fought for clarity, for closure, for fairness. But that version of you no longer exists. The old you would have asked, "Why did you do this to me?" The new you just says, "Noted." And that single word carries more power than 1,000 explanations. They were hoping you'd come chasing, defending yourself, trying to fix what they broke. But you didn't. You stayed still, unbothered, watching them unravel under their own guilt. Because when you master your emotions, you master the game. And in the end, it wasn't you who looked weak, it was them, drowning in their own deception. They thought they won when they snaked you, but the real victory was in your restraint. You didn't lose anything. You only cleared the room of those who never deserved to sit at your table. You didn't chase them out. They revealed themselves. And when they did, you didn't react. You observed, you learned, you detached. They're realizing now that silence is the scariest response. Because when someone doesn't react, it means they've already accepted who you are and decided you're irrelevant. You didn't scream. You adjusted your boundaries. You didn't beg for honesty. You built a wall so high they'll never climb back over it. They keep wondering what's going on in your mind, but that's the thing, they no longer have access to it. Your thoughts, your emotions, your next moves all locked away behind calm eyes and steady breaths. You became unpredictable. You became unreadable. And that's the kind of power that terrifies manipulators. They think silence is emptiness, but silence is full of everything they can't handle. It's full of wisdom, awareness, and control. You don't react because you see them fully, clearly, and once you've seen the truth behind the mask, you no longer need to play the game. They'll tell others. They changed, but they won't admit that they are the reason you did. That their betrayal carved out the softness and replaced it with steel. That their deceit taught you what kind of people never deserved your loyalty. They wanted you to explode instead. You evolved. Now, when they cross paths with you, they feel the chill, the polite smile, the detached tone, the distant eyes that say, I remember everything but I no longer care. And that's the part that destroys them the most. Because they realize too late your silence wasn't confusion. It was closure. They're shocked that the same person they underestimated now carries silence like a sword. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need confrontation. You just needed peace. And once you chose peace over proving your point, you became untouchable. That's what snakes never understand. Silence isn't surrender. It's sovereignty. It's the calm of someone who already knows how the story ends and no longer needs to narrate it. They replay that moment over and over again, trying to figure out what went wrong. They remember every word they said, every lie they told, every move they made, but what haunts them most isn't the betrayal itself, it's your reaction to it. Or rather, the lack of one. Because how do you defeat someone who doesn't even flinch? How do you get under the skin of a person who's learned to become untouchable? They wanted a scene, but all they got was silence. And silence is terrifying when it comes from someone who once cared. They thought they'd broken something in you. What they didn't realize is that they only broke access. You locked the gates the moment they snaked you, sealed the doors to your energy, and they never noticed until they tried to come back. And when they finally did, they found no trace of emotion left to manipulate. You'd already grieved them long before they betrayed you. That's why their betrayal didn't hurt. It only confirmed what your intuition had been whispering all along. They mistook your quiet for confusion. They thought you didn't understand what happened, but you understood everything too well. You just chose not to respond. Because once you reach a certain level of awareness, you stop explaining, you stop arguing, you stop performing. You simply let people expose themselves, and then you let them live with the consequences. They tried to provoke you into a reaction, to make you slip, to remind you that you still cared, but you gave them nothing. You didn't even blink. That's when they realized your silence wasn't a pause, it was a period. The end of their access. The end of your patience, the end of their illusion of power. And that ending? It burned more than any words you could have said. They started telling people their version of the story, how they were the victim, how you were distant, how you changed. But even their lies couldn't hide the truth that your silence made them look guilty. Because when one person stays calm and the other starts shouting, everyone can tell who lost control. You didn't have to defend your name, your composure did it for you. Now, their guilt keeps them up at night. Because the thing about betrayal is this, it doesn't just ruin trust, it ruins peace. But not yours, theirs. You walked away unbothered while they stayed behind trying to justify the unjustifiable. You sleep soundly. They rehearse apologies they'll never say out loud. They wanted power, now they're prisoners of their own choices. They wonder if you'll ever confront them, if you'll ever say something, anything. But you won't. You've moved too far ahead for confrontation to even matter. You're not interested in closure from the person who caused the wound. You've realized that peace isn't found in getting answers, it's found in not needing them. That's why you didn't react, because reacting gives importance to what no longer deserves it. And that, right there, is your quiet revenge living as if they never existed. No loud speeches, no dramatic exits, no public exposure. Just stillness, just indifference, just peace. You didn't destroy them, you simply showed them how irrelevant they are when you stop feeding them energy. They see you now thriving, focused, calm. The same calm they once mistook for weakness. The same silence they thought was surrender. But now, that stillness has weight. It commands attention. You walk like someone who knows too much and speaks too little. You carry the kind of peace that makes people nervous because it comes from surviving chaos and never returning to it. They thought they could replace you. They thought you'd come crawling back, desperate for validation. But you never came. You let time do what revenge couldn't expose the truth. One by one, people started to see their patterns. One by one, they began to lose the audience that once applauded them. Because no matter how loud a snake hisses, silence always sounds wiser. Now they see your calm and confuse it with coldness. But it's not cold, it's clarity. You've simply accepted that not everyone who sits at your table deserves a seat. You've learned that some people can't handle your loyalty because it reminds them of their lack of it. And once you accepted that, you stopped giving explanations. You simply started living differently. That last disrespect, it wasn't loud, wasn't grand, wasn't even unexpected. It was quiet, subtle, the kind of betrayal that slips under the skin and stays there. And that was the moment everything in you went still. You didn't shout, didn't argue, didn't demand explanation. You just detached. Because some endings don't need closure, they just need clarity. You'd forgiven too much before. You'd reasoned your way through their cruelty, softened your edges for their comfort, bit your tongue to keep the peace. But that last moment, that final act of disrespect, it snapped something inside you. Not out of rage, but realization. You saw them exactly as they were, not wounded, not confused, not lost, just careless with something sacred. They thought you'd fight again, plead again, explain again. That's what they were used to, your patience, your effort, your understanding. But this time, the silence hit them harder than any confrontation could. Because silence from someone like you isn't absence. It's finality. It's the sound of someone who's done trying. That last disrespect didn't just hurt, it enlightened you. It showed you where your loyalty ended and your self-respect began. It showed you that no amount of love should ever require you to shrink to be tolerated. They mistook your kindness for weakness, your forgiveness for foolishness. But that last insult was the day you remembered who you were. They didn't notice it then, the calm in your tone, the stillness in your eyes. They didn't realize that they were witnessing your goodbye. Because real departures aren't dramatic. They're quiet. They happen when your spirit finally whispers, "No more." And when that moment comes, there's no going back. That last disrespect burned the last bridge. You didn't set it on fire out of vengeance, it disintegrated from disuse. You simply stopped walking across it. You stopped giving explanations, stopped proving your worth, stopped bleeding for people who never offered bandages. You realized the war had been one-sided all along, and that's when everything changed. The same silence they used to mock became your armor. The same indifference they mistook for weakness became your strength. You learned that you don't need revenge when your peace is this loud. You learned that walking away doesn't mean defeat, it means evolution. They'll tell people you changed, that you went cold. They'll twist the story, paint themselves as victims of your distance. But you and the universe know the truth. You didn't change, you remembered yourself. You stopped pouring into what was already leaking. You stopped loving where you were only tolerated. Now, they replay at that last moment. The words they said, the look you gave, the way you didn't react. They thought they won when you walked away calmly. They thought your silence meant surrender. But they were wrong, it meant freedom. Because when someone disrespects you for the last time, they don't realize they're not just ending the argument, they're ending access. That last disrespect was your graduation, the day you outgrew the version of yourself that tolerated what you didn't deserve. You didn't walk away bitter, you walked away aware. And awareness is a one-way street. Once you see people for who they are, you can't unsee it. Once you know peace, chaos becomes unbearable. They'll miss the version of you that cared. They'll crave the softness they mistook for weakness. But you can't go back to a place that taught you how to doubt your worth. You can't rebuild with people who are addicted to your pain. They'll call you heartless now, but that's what people call you when they can no longer manipulate your heart. You didn't slam the door. You just closed it quietly, so quietly they didn't even notice until they reached for the handle and found it locked. And now, every time they think of you, they remember that silence, that final look, that calm goodbye that hit harder than any revenge ever could. They wonder if you think about them. You don't. They wonder if you hate them. You don't. You're simply done. Because when peace enters, resentment leaves. When self-worth grows, attachment dies. That's the real glow-up. Not moving on fast, but moving on free. Now they see it, the strength they underestimated, the grace they took for granted, the calm that used to make them feel safe. They realized too late that losing your presence was the real punishment. You didn't just leave their life, you left their control. And every day since, they've been learning the hard way. The most dangerous goodbye isn't shouted in anger. It's whispered in silence, right after the last disrespect. That last disrespect didn't just push you away, it woke something ancient inside you. It reminded you of the version of yourself that existed before the apologies, before the excuses, before the emotional labor you performed for people who mistook your empathy for obedience. That was the moment you remembered that you were not made to beg for peace, you are peace. And anything that disrupts that, no matter how familiar, has to go. You stopped explaining your worth to people who were committed to misunderstanding it. You stopped trying to heal those who kept reopening the wounds for attention. That final disrespect became your divine permission slip to choose yourself. It wasn't weakness, it was awakening. Because sometimes it takes being disrespected one last time to remember that silence can be sacred. They thought your silence was emotional collapse, they didn't realize it was rebirth. While they mistook your quiet for defeat, you were busy rebuilding. While they were laughing behind your back, you were already halfway to freedom. That's what they'll never understand. When someone like you leaves, you don't come back. You don't revisit the ruins, you start over somewhere brighter. They told themselves you'd reach out eventually. They convinced themselves that time would soften your stance. But days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and you stayed gone. Not out of spite, but because peace finally felt like home. Once you've tasted peace after surviving chaos, nothing toxic tastes the same again. That last disrespect shifted your entire energy. You stopped matching effort, stopped explaining boundaries, stopped trying to prove loyalty. You realized that some people only respect you when they can use you. You learned that you can forgive someone and still deny them access. You understood that closure doesn't require conversation. Sometimes it just requires walking away and meaning it. Now they wonder why you're so calm, why you don't react, don't argue, don't defend yourself. But that's the thing, when you've seen true disrespect, nothing else deserves your energy. The old you would have fought to be understood. The new you just lets time do the talking. And time has a cruel way of revealing everything people tried to hide. They feel it now, that quiet distance that says more than words ever could. Every time they remember what they did, they feel that silence closing in. It's not anger, it's consequence. Because people rarely realize how valuable your presence is until they're locked out of it. And by then, it's too late. The same mouth that disrespected you now speaks your name with guilt. The same people who thought you were replaceable now watch your absence rearrange everything. They thought you'd always be there until you weren't. They thought they'd always have time to make it right until time ran out. That's what happens when you play with someone who loves deeply. Once they stop caring, it's irreversible. You don't seek revenge, you became the lesson. Your peace is the punishment. Your silence is the echo they can't escape. They wonder how you managed to let go so easily, but that's the thing, it wasn't easy. It was necessary. You mourned in silence, healed in solitude, and now you wear detachment like armor. They'll never forget the way you left. No tears, no anger, no drama, just composure, the kind that cuts deeper than shouting ever could. Because nothing scares people more than realizing you're done without closure. You left them with their guilt, their words, their chaos, and they've been trying to drown the echo of your calm ever since. Now, when your name comes up, they don't know what to say. They laugh awkwardly, change the subject, pretend they're unbothered. But deep down, they know they lost something irreplaceable. They lost someone who would have gone through storms for them all because they couldn't control their pride for one moment. And maybe that's poetic, just as the same pride that caused the disrespect is now the silence that eats at them. They want to apologize, but the same ego that broke everything still sits in the way. That's the thing about disrespect. Once it's seen, it can't be unseen. You can forgive it, but you'll never look at them the same again. They thought they won by pushing you away, but you were the prize. You were the stability they didn't know they needed, the calm they didn't know they'd crave, the peace they thought they could find elsewhere. Now, they see it. Too late. That last disrespect cost them everything they never knew they valued until it was gone. So let them think about it. Let them wonder. Let them choke on their regret. You owe them nothing, not explanation, not forgiveness, not another chance. The version of you that tolerated that treatment no longer exists. You buried that version with your final goodbye. That last disrespect was their mistake, but your awakening. It was the last test before transformation. Because once you realize your worth doesn't decrease because someone failed to see it, you never settle again. And that's your revenge, not anger, not bitterness, just indifference. They're sorry now. The kind of sorry that comes after destruction, when the damage is irreversible and silence is the only answer left. The kind of sorry that tastes like regret and sounds like excuses whispered too late. But you don't flinch, you don't soften. You just watch, calm, detached, unbothered. Because you've outgrown the version of yourself that needed their apology to move on. You hear their remorse, but you no longer feel it. Because the truth is, their regret isn't born from guilt, it's born from consequences. They're not sorry for what they did, they're sorry that you finally stopped caring. That's the difference. They don't miss you, they miss the power they had over you. And when that power vanished, so did their confidence. Once upon a time, you would have melted at those words, "I'm sorry." You would have believed that remorse meant change. But now, you just smile, because this time, you know better. You learn that sorry means nothing when respect was never present. You learn that peace is louder than closure, and silence is stronger than forgiveness. They can't comprehend how you became this version of yourself, calm, confident, untouchable. They expected you to crawl back, to break, to need them again. Instead, you rose from the ashes they set on fire, not as the victim, but as the villain they accidentally created. They wrote the script, you rewrote the ending. You don't chase anymore, you attract. You don't beg, you observe. You don't fight for attention, you command it by existing. That's what your villain era really is. Not cruelty, but clarity. You finally learned to stop explaining your heart to people who were committed to misunderstanding it. You stopped bleeding for the ungrateful. You started choosing you. Now, they whisper. They say you've changed, that you're cold, that you don't care. But you do care, just not about them. You care about your peace, your purpose, your energy. You've learned that not every war deserves your weapon, and not every cry deserves your compassion. Some people need to live with the absence of your softness to understand its worth. They're sorry now because they finally see the other side, the one where they no longer exist in your story. They see you thriving, glowing, at peace, and it haunts them. Because in their mind, you weren't supposed to survive without them. You weren't supposed to find happiness after the betrayal, but you did, effortlessly. You became their nightmare, not because you hurt them, but because you healed, because you turned their chaos into your calm, their rejection into your rebirth. You became the walking reminder of what they'll never have again. That's the kind of revenge that requires no plotting, just growth. Now they want to come back, but they can't even find the road to you. You've sealed every door they once entered. You've changed the locks, built walls of gold around your energy, and learned to smile without explanation. Their "I miss you" doesn't land anymore. It echoes in the emptiness they created. You see, your villain era isn't about vengeance, it's about reclamation. It's about taking back every ounce of power you once gave away freely. It's about knowing your worth so deeply that losing people no longer hurts, it enlightens. You're not heartless. You're healed. You're not bitter. You're balanced. They stare at your calm like it's cruelty. They can't tell if you've forgiven them or forgotten them, and that's the beauty of it. You owe them no clarity. You owe them no closure. You became the question that keeps them awake at night. You are the silence they can't interpret, the mystery they'll never solve. They try to mimic your peace now. They post quotes about healing and strength, pretending they've evolved too. But you can't fake alignment. They're still running from the truth while you sit comfortably in it. Because your glow isn't revenge, it's divine confirmation that you survived what was meant to destroy you. And deep down, they know they created this version of you. They trained the villain through their disrespect, through their manipulation, through their lies. They made you cold, then got angry when you stopped melting. They wanted control, but they birthed indifference. That's the most poetic punishment of all. Now when they look at you, they see everything they once mocked: power, self-control, grace. You don't respond with fire anymore. You respond with absence. Because the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one shouting, it's the one who has nothing left to prove. They can apologize until their throats bleed, but you've already detached. You learned that forgiveness doesn't always mean reconnection. Sometimes it's just release. You don't wish them harm, you wish them distance. You're not angry, you're indifferent. And that indifference is what kills them slowly. They hate that you're unshaken, that you don't talk about them, don't defend yourself, don't explain, because they thought your power was your love, but it was your restraint. And now that restraint is their punishment. They'll keep waiting for the old you, not realizing that version died the day you stopped seeking their validation. They're sorry now, but not because they care. They're sorry because you moved on. You didn't just survive the betrayal, you made it irrelevant. You became everything they said you couldn't be. Strong, peaceful, complete. And that's what haunts them. Not your anger, but your evolution. Because nothing terrifies guilty people more than seeing the one they broke unbreakable. So let them apologize. Let them regret. Let them romanticize the chaos they caused. You're not coming back. You're too far gone, too at peace, too in love with your own growth to ever return. You're the storm they summoned and the calm that followed it. You don't seek their closure anymore, you are their closure. You don't need to burn bridges. Your silence is the wildfire. You don't need to prove your worth, your peace already does. So when they come back with trembling words and sad eyes, smile, not out of cruelty but out of understanding. Because you finally see it, their apology isn't redemption, it's recognition. They finally see who you always were. And that's the real villain arc, not becoming evil, but becoming untouchable. They never expected your silence to be this loud. They thought time would soften you, that you'd come back when the anger faded, but they didn't realize it wasn't anger keeping you away. It was peace. It was clarity. You finally saw the pattern for what it was, the endless cycle of breaking and fixing, wounding and healing, apologizing and repeating. You decided not to play anymore. You learned that walking away wasn't weakness, it was intelligence. They call you cold now because you no longer react. They call you changed because you stopped entertaining their chaos. But you didn't change, you just stopped being the one who tolerated pain in the name of love. You became observant, not emotional, strategic, not sentimental. You became the calm after the storm, the kind of calm that terrifies people who thrive on noise. They watch your every move now. They study your composure like it's an unsolvable riddle. How can someone who lost everything still look so complete? How can someone who was betrayed still smile without bitterness? It's simple because you realized peace isn't something they can take from you once you decide to guard it. You stopped waiting for closure from people who were never capable of giving it. Now they sit in silence, haunted by your absence. Every time they scroll past something that reminds them of you, they pause not out of nostalgia but disbelief. Because in their story, you were supposed to crumble. You were supposed to beg for their validation, to come crawling back once loneliness hit. But you didn't. You built an empire out of solitude instead. You became the embodiment of every lesson they refused to learn. You became what happens when someone breaks and rebuilds correctly, stronger, wiser, colder. You became everything they feared. A version of yourself that doesn't need them anymore. They used to be your weakness. Now they're just a memory that doesn't move you. They apologize now, but it's not for you, it's for their own guilt. They want to ease their conscience, not heal your heart, but your silence robs them of that luxury. You don't respond. You don't engage. Because some apologies don't deserve acknowledgement. They deserve distance. You learned that some people only say sorry because they hate seeing you at peace. And that peace, that stillness drives them insane. Because how can you not care? How can you not lash out, not curse their name, not demand answers? But that's the secret. Indifference is the highest form of revenge. You don't need to punish them. Their own thoughts do that job perfectly. You've become the ghost that lives in their guilt. Now they watch you thrive from afar. They hear your name whispered in rooms they no longer belong to. They see your strength celebrated by the very people who once doubted you. And that burns them from the inside. Because they thought breaking you would elevate them, but all it did was reveal your power and expose their weakness. They thought your heart was naive, that your kindness was submission. But now they understand your kindness was control. You were never blind, you were just giving them a chance to prove who they were. And when they did, you didn't argue, you just left. No shouting, no tears, no chaos, just silence, permanent, powerful silence.